Hello and welcome to BT Media's In Conversation With series. Today I welcome Vanessa Lovatt, Chief Evangelist of Glisser, an all-in-one audience engagement platform for global business, virtual and hybrid events and learning environments. Good afternoon and welcome, Vanessa.
Hi, Dan. Thank you very much for having me today.
Oh, it's great. I've never interviewed or met someone with your job title.
I had a feeling that that was what you were about to say. Yes, it's a very zany job title.
It is.
But it basically just means I get to work with our customers really closely on a daily basis, which is great for me.
Okay, so I didn't know if it was like one of those sort of Americanisms. You know, they use vice president, everyone's this and that. I didn't know if that was it an Americanism.
I'd say it definitely comes from America. I think tech is quite fond of the chief evangelist title and sort of getting out there in front of people and saying why this is all so great. I'm definitely not American. You can hear from my very, very English accent.
You're not going to start preaching to us sermons.
My parents think that's what I do.
Virtual events, so that's fair enough. You're a preacher in that respect.
Yeah.
Vanessa, obviously Glisser's a more recent development in your career, shall I say. It'd be great for our viewers if you can bring to life what brought you to that place. So start wherever you want to start and let us know.
Yeah, for sure. So you're absolutely right. It is a very recent and not an insignificant change on my career path, actually. So I started off in the commercial conferencing world and spent almost 15 years actually with a single commercial conferencing company, and in that time worked across a very wide range of events from small to large and really all over the world. But added into that work in digital communities as well in more recent years, which was a great eye-opener to see actually how far you can stretch conference content beyond just the four walls of the venue in which you're holding it and actually really get it out digitally too. And then after I'd finished working with that company, I then worked independently with a number of different companies, really to help them launch their digital activity too, which was nearly all digital events. And this is well before 2020, so well before COVID times. I was already a sort of staunch convert to the opportunities that the virtual event world presents and the hybrid event world presents. And so fast forward to 2020, obviously don't want to recap what's the pain, let's be honest, the pain that's been for painful experience for the event sector. But I found myself really feeling quite a lot of affinity to the tech companies for the first time ever, as I really recognised how massive a role that they're going to be playing in the future of the event sector, to be honest, and actually feel there's a huge responsibility for the tech companies to play the right role in that development and evolution. And Glisser particularly caught my eye because the real sort of, I guess, focus point that we're looking forward to, not to sort of overlook the here and now, but is the hybrid opportunity of the future that, as I said, I just felt a real affinity to that, having people in the room as well as leveraging the virtual component of events. So yeah, that's what brought me to here today.
So you had a head start on all of us.
I did. I'm not
scrambling around on March the 20th going, oh my God, what are we going to do now?
Yes, there was a moment when I thought, oh, all of that experience that was until now quite random is actually about to come into its own. And I've laughed as well. I thought the first digital event I ran was in 2012. Right. And I mean, I kind of cringe when I look back at that event now. It was so rudimentary and it was very bare bones, but it worked. And that's what we ultimately then built this whole kind of virtual portfolio that we were running as a team. And it was very experimental, and we laughed a lot at our mistakes at that time, and even since reminiscing now with some of the colleagues that I worked on that with, we're kind of like, wow, can't believe we did that. But you have to start somewhere, and definitely having had all of that experience well established in the past has been really beneficial this year for sure.
No, good for you. So we're going to go into obviously talk about virtual events clearly in more detail. I'm just actually interested. So Glisser was obviously in existence, right? Before you joined. When the pandemic struck, and obviously I guess the first few months since, and obviously when you joined, were they then thinking, right, we'll develop our proposition? Were they talking to event organisers, or did they have something ready fit for purpose? I'm interested in that journey that your business went on, actually.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I think it's actually a good question to ask a lot of the event tech companies. When I sort of think of it as, what did you grow up doing? And what Glisser predominantly grew up doing was audience engagement. So we were mostly used in-room events to enhance the experience that the attendees had, and the sort of engagement with the speakers and engagements with sponsors, and even with each other, I guess, by using interactivity tools. And we already had built in the chance to embed streaming. So prior to all of this craziness this year, Glisser had already been operating in a hybrid capacity for some of the customers, so that they would be able to bring contribution in from attendees not physically in the room, which is, I think, one of the reasons that we're really excited about hybrid in the future, because we've already done it. We're already helping customers with it as well. So were we ready like we are today? Goodness me, no. There's been an exponential amount of platform build in the last, well, really since March. I've been coming up for 4 years now, and even in the last 4 months, not 4 years, 4 months.
I was going to say. It feels like 4 years.
A long year. 4 months, and the platform's just changed even so much in that time, and it makes it hard to keep up for the users out there. And we're not alone in that development. Everybody's developing, and really aggressively too, to try and deliver on what customers are now finding that they need every day, and what people want to have from a virtual event, and see to make it effective for their users and their customers and sponsors too. So it's a hell of a journey that we're all on together.
Yeah, it's interesting from a business perspective, isn't it? Because it's easy to sit here and think Glisser and all the others, well, they're so lucky they had this solution. All they had to do was roll it out when the pandemic hit. But clearly, those in the know that's not the case. And actually, if they tried to do that, you would have failed, because it wouldn't have been fit for purpose.
Yeah, no, we really have had to adapt it and mold it, and it's been very customer responsive, and continues to be, actually, to how many of our customers are asking for certain features. Okay, actually, a certain amount have asked for it. We've really got to get this in quickly, because it's clearly very important. Best example I can think of that, actually, is sort of maybe jumping slightly off here, but the states CPE, CPD points now. The measurement of them has become far more rigorous after 2020. It all sort of went online a little bit, hard to measure. And so a lot of our customers have said, can you help us measure the amount of time that people are actually coming to sessions, so that we can sort of safely issue them with their certificates? So we built that, so that now they can use Glisser to be able to fully above board issue CPE, CPD points and certificates, because people have genuinely met the criteria. And we didn't have that 4 months ago, and that's all built purely based on customer requests and customer feedback. So when I say I feel like we have a responsibility, that's the sort of thing I mean. We've got a responsibility to build what customers need to be able to deliver great ongoing experiences and meet their own event goal needs too.
So, and I know this from personal experience. I got off site at a show in Excel March 13th or something. So we put it on, because the UK government said it's still okay to put on.
Must have been one of the last live events.
Well, basically my role on the day, or the days, was mostly handing out sanitizer as the group event director. But you learn different
when you knew you'd made it.
Basically, and trying to placate exhibitors with chocolate and stuff. But I'll write a book about that experience another time. And then obviously March 23rd came, or whenever it was, and everyone wanted and I'm talking mainly from a trade show organizer perspective for the minute, but I guess it's the same in lots of industries. And people thinking, what do I do? Where do I go? And people are probably still thinking that. I just want to touch upon a few basics. In your opinion, where does someone start? So someone that had traditionally done only physical offline, what's the first thing that they should be thinking about?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And we're seeing actually quite a number of customers now starting to go through this for the first time. So any company that didn't need to run events in 2020, of which there are many, didn't. Quite right. Don't. However, I think now the mentality is, we're going to have to do something next year, and we are going to have to embrace this new way of working. And the first thing that I always recommend every time is actually don't go looking anywhere yet. Think about your event. Why do you want to do it? what's the point of it? What's its purpose? What are the goals? Why are you doing it in the first place? And at the moment, too many people are actually saying, what are the platforms? How do I fit into them? Where you've really got to keep your event goals absolutely front and foremost.
Which is the same in anything, right? If you're going to launch something, you need to look at who the target is, why you're doing it, who's doing it already, you know, what are the commercials and so on and so forth. So, but you're right. You know, people just jumped into it. God, even if they didn't have an event and want to make some money, you know, it was just it's like the Wild West.
You're not the first person who has said that to me lately, actually. But so the reason for doing your events are likely to have evolved, but that's still why you're doing it. So keep that first and foremost, and plan everything around that, which will involve going and investigating some tech options to support you in your event goals. But keep the goals front and foremost. And I can't emphasize that enough, because you're then more likely to select the best tech that will help you meet your goals, and you're more likely to select whatever other elements you need to take you on the right journey, and not end up going down a rabbit warren because you happen to see a piece of tech that looks interesting but actually doesn't help you on your overall goals. So that's definitely my kind of first piece of advice.
I think that's good advice.
Document it, agree it with your team, and keep going back to it repeatedly. And when you are then starting to look at potential platforms that might be able to help you, so whatever kind of tech it might be, and you sometimes you can still use Zoom. You don't have to make it more complicated. So I think that's really important too. If you don't need to complicate it, just don't complicate it.
Good point.
But I think more people are now starting to feel like they would like more. They'd like to have a little bit more sort of firepower, be that the look and feel of the event, or the interactivity and engagement, or data analytics, whatever aspect it might be. More people are starting to feel the need for that to help them with achieving whatever goals it might be that they have in mind. But then make sure you really focus your search around those specific areas, and try to avoid the sort of scattergun, oh, I've just come across a new platform, I'll get a demo. I've just come another platform, get a demo. Like, work out before you get onto that call, what are the core elements of the platform? Because I reckon there are about 100 platforms now, and they're all brilliant at something. They're all pretty good at other things, and they're all probably not brilliant at something. And so work out what is important to you, and then you can kind of start categorizing beyond that. I genuinely, and this is from pre-Glisser days as well, I genuinely haven't found a platform that truly does it all. And it's working out which bits are most important to you, because even if there was a platform that did it all, whatever that exactly means, you're not going to use all of those features and functions anyway. I just don't think it would be possible. So I guess what I'm getting at here is try not to have your head turned by everything. Work out what you need, and then just be really laser focused on it. And before you get on a demo, actually check and ask, does it do this? Because if it doesn't, just don't do a demo. There are a lot of very demo tired event people out there, and I don't
I went through it.
It's exhausting. It's really exhausting, and as did I. And it's mind-boggling as well, and they sort of all start blending into one, and which interface is that, and I can't remember which one did this. So be selective before you even get on the phone, I think.
I attended many demos with many people, and then when they all start, your face is on, and then people take the video off, then they've switched off, because it's just like, it's too much. Interesting that you, in one of your blog posts, I read that you said treat the platform like you would treat a venue.
Yes.
Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Really interesting that you mentioned that. And also, you always worry slightly when someone says, I read something in a blog post, and think, I hope I remember writing that. Yes. So what I mean by that really is planning how you're going to run your actual event. And I think sometimes there's an assumption that a virtual event is going to be easier, but I think most people who have actually done it, certainly the first time, it is not. The first time is frankly terrifying, and you're permanently on edge through the sort of pretty much every minute. But once the first time is over and it's become slightly more comfortable, it isn't easier. And you really need to think about how you're planning your own team to be running the events. So if you think of it as the platform, as the venue, you would normally have in your venue a team member in every single room, sort of saying to the speaker, get going, or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, get off the stage. You'd probably have them running around with a microphone. You'd have quite a lot of manpower running it. And I would try to sort of apply the same mentality that you know your event better than anybody else, and therefore you are best placed to run that event better than anybody else. And if that means that to start a session, instead of saying go, you click a button on a computer, you're still the best person to take ownership for that. We had a really interesting conversation with a customer, and she was trying to work out how she was going to resource her event, and she sort of kept saying, we need more of your team, we need more of your team, which we were able to do. But when we couldn't quite work out why, and we said, so who would normally run around with a microphone? And she said, oh, well, that's normally my neighbour who lives a few doors down, and she helps me out, but she's moved to New Zealand. And we're like, okay, you need that person to still help you run the event. And you wouldn't sort of turn up to a venue and then say to the venue manager, awesome, going to leave you to it and let you run the event. You are hands-on all over everything. And I think you've got to kind of take the same mentality, that you still own it and you're the best placed person to do.
That's a good point. And I know obviously there are things, and I've been on some, not disasters, because everyone's learning as they go along. And even this, when I started this, I didn't have a proper microphone. And then you realise after the first one, when it's all muffled, that you do. So you need a webcam rather than just your laptop thing. So actually, video production qualities are really important, right?
Yes. Really.
So sort of tell us about that. I mean, audio and visual seems obvious, but sometimes.
This is a big one that I think, much like you, most people probably do learn the slightly harder way. And again, some meetings you just don't need to go to town on the production, because maybe it's an internal meeting and that's perfectly acceptable. So please don't sort of mishear me saying you've got to chuck loads of money at this. Take it on a case-by-case basis, but definitely seeing an increasing number of customers who are, really asking for like TV broadcast quality, and you can't do that on your own. You need a TV broadcast company to help you do
everyone would set up a TV station.
Right, it sounds really obvious, but we're definitely seeing, more and more studios are cropping up. I think more and more companies are very interested in going to use those studios, and if that's what your event goals require, so let's go back to that, then go for it and budget for it, because it can get quite costly. Actually, this side of things is, it can be expensive. I'm just thinking about a contract in the States, very expensive in the States specifically. It's a 2.5-hour event in total, massive production. They've got speakers all over the US, which the film crew will be flown out to. And the bill for that 2.5-hour event, including all of the pre-prep, is going to be about $92,000. Just for the video production element of it. Now that's massive, and anyone watching this might be going, "Oh my god, this is..."
No, but it's what they want. It's fit for purpose.
The opposite end of the spectrum might be getting you going and it looking really great, and it might be £3,000. But I think if that's what your event requires to meet your goals, something that's really worth almost over budgeting for, and then cutting back where you can.
And where does Glisser begin and end? Because obviously you can deal with firms' existing suppliers, I guess, for different things.
Firms existing, did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. And an event, if someone's putting on an event and they have some existing suppliers, where Glisser can obviously work with other service providers.
Yeah, absolutely. So really interesting question. One we're talking about a lot at the moment, because we're really open to integrations with many different sorts of platforms that actually some people might look at us and go, you guys not competitors, but actually we're really up for integrating. Our APIs are open, so that if you want to take these sort of engagement tools that we offer and plug them into another platform, we're very open to that happening. And we do that quite a lot actually already, and enjoy doing it, because I think it enables our customers to build their perfect events that achieve their event goals by bringing together different tech platforms. And absolutely, we work with many different video production companies. We work with a lot of different venues for the hybrid approach. And we really see ourselves as part of the ecosystem for the event sector, and we want to be part of that ecosystem, and we want to, you know, enable sort of Glisser powered engagement within a wide variety of different events, be they in person or be they virtual or hybrid.
And can you manage those relationships with other suppliers if they want you to?
We have been doing so, yeah. It really varies around each individual customer's requirements. So we absolutely have those that just buy the platform, plug and play, do it all completely self-service, which is great. And we actually had, it's amazing to see the number of people that are doing that. I just got that stat this morning, and I was pretty blown away. Actually, it's 30 times higher than it was in January this year.
Which, learning what they're doing, which is good.
It's amazing. Yeah. That actually exceeded my expectation. But then on the flip side, we've got some customers that want us to handhold them through every step of the journey. We have an amazing customer success team to help with that. And that's very niche, very bespoke, and very custom to that individual customer. And it really depends on what the individual customer is after.
Yeah, because I think service seems obvious again, but levels of service, customer care, both during and after the event, possibly even more important. People sometimes get stung on. I mean, like anyone, like any consumer, we might buy something, could be cheap, but then we will find out why afterwards, because the customer service is horrendous.
Yeah,
so yeah,
it's a really good point actually, and one which I've discussed with a couple of other people in conversations like this. And I think actually I might just reference back to a question you asked me about, you know, how would people get started, that you asked earlier on. And I'm also really mindful that my last answer might have come across a little bit salesy, which it really wasn't meant to, but we're really proud of our service team.
Sure.
And when you are embarking upon this journey, be it your first virtual event or your 10th virtual or first hybrid event, just check those service levels with whichever company it is that you are, whichever part of your event ecosystem it is. If it's your tech platform, how much training do you get? And I mean, literally, I would check by hour. How many hours of training do I get? How many hours of on-site support do I get? When I say on-site, I mean sort of live virtual event support. Sorry, that's a relic from 2019, isn't it? And what happens if I need more? And what will you actually do on site during the live event? And to your exact point, what will you do afterwards? Will you help me get the analytics out, or am I, you know, on my own at that point? If it's your video production company, same question, you know, what will you do to help me prepare? Will you, prepare all the visuals for me because I want to have this fantastic backdrop? Is that included in what you're offering me? Are you including rehearsal time in this, or do I need to book that additionally and separately? So event planners, we're amazing at this. We budget till the cows come home, and then we budget with the cows. But at the moment, we don't always know what to put in that budget. So I would assume the worst always and keep asking, what else might I have to pay for? And what else do your customers generally end up paying for that maybe I've missed out here? And try to really sort of over-spec and over-plan for that. And I would recommend that with any supplier that you're working with on your journey, because the last thing you want is unexpected surprises when it comes to budget, but also, you know, you want to know that you've got the service that you need to be able to execute your event.
And we were talking before we came on air, which sounds very grand, about the future. Okay, so I speak to a lot of organisers, again, mostly trade and consumer shows or exhibitions. And they believe in virtual a little bit. They definitely see the benefits of international consuming their content, because probably won't be able to fly for a while, and actually people traveling to events, not so much. What you've said, obviously there's extra costs in virtual, and they've got in person, and people aren't making as much money potentially, but I want to come and talk to you about that. What's your view in the future? Because we can't give everything away for free at the same time as the physical event, right? If I'm talking about exhibitions for a minute, what's your view on that, of how they're going to work going forward?
Yeah, it's a great unknown.
Right, are you going to tell us the?
Just get my crystal ball out. No, it's. I'm actually really excited about it, and I say that advisedly because I know at the moment there's a lot of people that are really not excited about the future of the sector because they've been personally very negatively affected by this year. And so I do sort of say that somewhat tentatively because I don't want to appear insensitive, but I do genuinely feel that once we sort of uncover, which is a collective effort. I don't think it should be led by the tech providers. I don't think it should be led by the event organizer only. I think it needs to be a collective endeavor to take us forward on this next stage of the event world, because we kind of needed a bit of a kick up the butt anyway a couple of years ago, and no one would have chosen it to look and feel like this. But I think the opportunity to sort of enhance and augment the physical event world with virtual activity is massive. I mean, I really think it's huge in the exhibition world, especially. We've got this new situation now where we've proven people can work without traveling, not in the event sector specifically, physical events obviously, but we've opened up this new normal where people can actually ask, do I need to go, or can I do something virtually instead? And it's become very acceptable to ask that question. And nothing will ever replace face-to-face events, and nothing, I certainly don't think virtual should even begin to try to replace face-to-face events. I think we should be trying to enhance them in the longer term and continue to expand the reach, because I think everybody's seen a massive expansion in the reach of the sort of both number and geographical spread of attendees to virtual events, but also the reach of the content. So people go to such great lengths to create incredible content for events. Why should it just live for 2 days in the physical event world? Why can it not live for another 12 months or whatever is appropriate for that sector in the virtual world as well, and go out to a further reach of individuals too? So I think the possibilities are significant for us to see an exciting evolution in the sector. It's not going to happen tomorrow, and it is a sort of collective endeavour, as I said, but I genuinely feel really excited about it.
I think there's obviously a balance between how much you give away online at the time of the event, because we're going to need to try and mobilise people to a physical event, and if you're giving it away online, then you're taking away the incentive to go. So there are theories where you can give away content that you can't get online at the physical event to try and drive them there. But then, as you say, deliver a good chunk of content afterwards, which is great for sponsors because they're still engaging, and good for organisers because finally they can actually deliver this 365, paradigm that probably has been spoken about for a while, which is actually building online communities.
Yeah.
And I guess Glisser can help do that. Is that stuff you're doing, sort of talking to organisers about ongoing engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm really mindful. I feel like you're very kindly setting me up to.
Oh, sorry, I'm not doing it on purpose.
To sell here, which I'm not going to do. But yes, completely. And I think actually the best example of this, just because it's relevant and is just real, is Event Tech Live, which the event that a lot of people are familiar with. So we're going to be hosting all of their on-demand content. As an example, so that any of their registrants, I don't know the exact caveats if there are any that they might be putting in, but we'll be able to access all of that digitally afterwards too. So I mean, I certainly couldn't make it to every session. Nobody can. That's just the reality. Even when you go to a physical event, you can't make it to every session. But I'm
absolutely So I think ongoing engagement is really important. As you say, regardless of who can deliver it. And I think hopefully now, and also makes it cheaper, right? Because if you've got a delegate, you've required that delegate to go to an event. If you don't speak to them again for 10 months, they could have disappeared off, might not even be in the same position. But if you've consistently engaged with them, they're more likely to come back.
You should see, and my work in digital communities, I've seen the evidence of this. You should see that increasing the engagement, which you have to work hard at, doesn't do itself, unfortunately. But your rebook rate should be higher for those attendees. Their price point should be higher. The number of other people in their team that they should either bring or involve virtually should be higher. The evidence is kind of overwhelmingly there with companies that have done this. But like I said, it doesn't do it on its own. You have to work quite hard at it too.
Sure. Security and data challenges and concerns. Really interesting topic. But I've got to mention it. We had the whole GDPR thing, obviously 2 or 3 years ago. So now you can't talk or email anybody, but someone can still shove something through your letterbox in your home, which is always amazes me. What views have you got on that? What advice shall I say?
Yeah, this is actually a topic I'm quite fascinated to see how it's going to develop over particularly the next 6 months. Twofold. So firstly, you've got the security issue, like literally what's happening with your data when you put it into a virtual platform. How's it being stored? Is it, do you know how safe it is? And at the moment, I think for the right reasons, people had to make quick decisions and they just had to can I swear? Get stuff done. There we go. Kept it clean. Get stuff done.
The kids aren't back from school yet, so it's fine.
I don't think there was anywhere near enough rigor as there should have been when it comes to data security. And as an example, one of our customers, huge international consultancy, it took us 2 years to get through their data security protocols. There are companies been rushing these decisions through in 2 weeks or less in 2020. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to change I think it'll be the first half of next year, to be honest. I think it's going to come up quite quickly. And then the second aspect of the data usage with virtual and hybrid aspects of events is how the data is actually being used openly. So not the security aspect of it, the governance aspect of it more. And you've kind of got two sorts of virtual platforms, broadly speaking. The one that you log into, you just do your stuff in there and then you're gone, and your data is somewhat irrelevant to the platform. They're not interested in your data. And then the other is where you have to become a member of that platform, free, to be able to access that event, and then they're serving up to you multiple other events afterwards. And so they're kind of harvesting the data effectively to build their own databases and probably their own valuations on the back of that quite considerably. And I'm really intrigued to see whether companies start to become alive to that more in 2021 and start to say, actually, I'm not cool with my data being fed into someone else's data machine. And I'm not making that clear enough to my attendees, and whether even attendees might start to say, I don't know if I want to be sharing my data with you and with them when actually I only want to share it with you. So it's very much, to me, it feels like I explained this in another blog. I said the elephant in the virtual room at the moment is what the hell is happening with this data? And actually, do you really know what's happening with your data? And are you being completely transparent about it? And does it meet, again, your data goals and your business's needs? So I'm really fascinated on this.
Yeah, because everyone put a lot of time, effort and money in when GDPR came on board. And it's almost like, well, we have to do this now. So I'm not saying we're breaking laws, but everyone's trying to find maybe ways of, just sort of bending how they access the data or what they do with it. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be an interesting watch going forward.
I do think I should say, I think the platforms, I've certainly not come across one that's given me any cause for concern on the GDPR front. No, it's just the transparency of, for the users, how easily, how clearly their data is being used to them.
Monetising virtual events, which is a whole probably session in itself.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't replicate a 100 square metre stand online, and nor should you want to. Again, views, what people have been telling you. Because again, from my perspective, virtual's great, but I'm not making any bloody money out of it, or nowhere near what I can make physically. Is it just content, or can you make money?
So the virtual events that I ran were only for revenue generation and for profit, frankly. And they worked really well, and the margins were excellent. And that was sort of 95% of that was through sponsorship. And it was a combination of content. So you have to work really hard with the sponsor and that front to make sure that the content is worthy, frankly. And I think that pressure has only increased this year because you just simply cannot pitch in an online session. It should be made illegal, in my opinion. So the content, actually inserting sponsors into the program in a very highly curated and managed way, tends to be the highest opportunity. Of course, you've got the branding, but you've also got the data capture, the lead generation, video interstitials, pre-event and post-event activity that we've touched on, the post-event activity too. So if you really, I'm going to use the word curate it, there are masses of opportunities, and you bring video production in again, I should probably take out shares in video production based on what I'm saying today, but they present another whole load of opportunities for sponsorship revenue too, by bringing in additional sort of visual effects that can be really powerful if we start to talk about TV broadcasting side. I spoke with someone the other day, and it's a very, very extreme example, and they have run a virtual event that generated $3 million in revenue.
Wow.
So I don't think
is that paid for to get it, like from a delegate perspective, or
combination?
Right. Okay.
And yes, that was lower than it was in the virtual, in the physical world. It was significantly lower than it was in the physical world. But I think that's a fairly clear statement that you can monetize virtual events.
Sure. And in terms of how the community, I guess specifically in the UK, has reacted, I know you do some work with the Virtual Events Institute.
Yeah, I do.
How proud or excited have you been about how event professionals have, we touched upon it a little bit, have sort of engaged with this new technology?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. I've not been asked a question even remotely like that. I think my honest answer to that is I think we were maybe a little slow to get going, but I think now we've got going, actually, there's some really exciting case studies coming out, and some very like some enthusiasm and some energy for, do you know what? I didn't have a clue what I was doing in June. I kind of do a little bit now, and I feel quite excited about it. So I think in the UK specifically, we were a bit slow with the whole of the start of this, right? In every single regard. But actually now there's some really amazing case studies coming through. And if I think about one of our customers, particularly, who I really wouldn't have put at the kind of progressive end, and they're going ahead with a number of hybrid events already, because they feel safe, they feel secure, and they're being really progressive on that front. And they're the sort of organization which historically would probably been a little bit more sort of nervous on being experimental in the event area. That's the word I want. That's what, experimental. I think we're now starting to be a bit experimental and have a go, which is exactly what we should be doing right now. We're really going to learn by doing here, and it's starting to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also event professionals themselves, all ages, shapes and sizes, including me, it's never too old to learn something new. I know it's a bit scary, and in a funny way, it's better to do it at a time where you have to, everyone's doing it, rather than if you're doing your day job and I'm going to do a course over there or something completely different, that's harder. So if there's any positives to take from this whole situation, I think that's one of them. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we've been resourceful, right? Seriously.
Good word, resourceful. Yeah.
Resilient, grit. I mean, we could probably go on, but there's some fantastic new case studies coming through, and inventive and creative ways to use the tech that is out there. And I think also I'm seeing a little bit more of a partnership style approach, which is not I need tech, what do you do? Transaction done. It's a little bit more, okay, well, how do we make this work, and how do we build this together, and how do we learn together on this journey, which in my opinion is how it should be. And there was a moment earlier in the year when, let's be honest, the tech platforms were kind of calling the shots, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be that we're working together, we're learning together on this journey, we're learning from customers, hopefully customers are learning from us, and actually collectively we're all coming out of it stronger. So I think we're heading a little bit more in that direction too.
Good. I think that's sort of a good place to end, unless there's anything else that you want to evangelize on before
no, I don't think so. We've covered a lot of ground.
I could cover lots more, but it's really good to sort of hear your collaborative approach and views on how people that maybe have not started or even are doing it, and how they can,
just keep going back to our own event goals. I think I sort of, my team probably get bored of hearing me say it, but it's just so important and easy to stray from at the moment. So there we go. That's my last thing to evangelize on.
That's the Jerry Springer thought of the day, isn't it? Vanessa Lovatt of Glisser, or Chief Evangelist of Glisser. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best of luck with all the
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.